What's up, everybody? I am Matt, along with my sister Alena. Hope you guys are having a great week. We are currently up in Baltimore, and it feels like it's about negative 20 degrees. We are definitely missing the warm weather of Florida. We're still not sure exactly why we left 70-degree weather to come to the frigid north. But the exciting thing is that there is a handmade show, American-made show, and we are back. What are your thoughts so far on the show?
So far, so good. We've only been here for a few hours. We got in late this afternoon, so we walked the show quickly, but it was good to see a lot of familiar faces that I hadn't seen in a couple of years. So I am, optimistic about the show.
Awesome. Yeah, and for those listening that may or may not know the story behind all the American-made shows is for many, many years, it always took place in Philadelphia. Probably started in the 90s, and then into about 3 years ago, the show then started getting sold and moved around from show promoter to show promoter. And now this year, one of our own artists decided to take on the challenge of creating a show, and she has rejuvenated the industry and is helping bring a show back that is strictly American made and strictly handmade. So,
Yeah.
there are some learning curves and things to smooth out, but overall it seems like the show's going in the right direction. And for the first year, it's I think it's going the right way.
Yeah, definitely.
And if any artists are listening that aren't at the show, I hope you will strongly consider attending next year. And from a buyer standpoint, we thoroughly enjoy it, and for us especially, having a American-made show is very very important to us, and it makes things a lot easier for us trying to find those unique American artists that you don't see everywhere. And for those that have been to the gallery, you know how hard Alena works and how hard my mom works and Sue works on finding that unique handmade American made. And sometimes going through these online catalogs, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but fortunately we have these shows, so it makes our life a lot easier.
Yeah, actually our interview today is with an artist that we met about, I don't know, probably 8 years ago at one of these wholesale shows. So if it wasn't for a show like this, we would have never found Sondra. So
And
they're important.
I believe that was her first show when we met her. I believe
think
that
it
was her
was,
very
yeah.
first show. And it's been interesting watching Sondra's work grow and evolve over the years, and kind of as the gallery has grown, it's been fun to be able to evolve and grow with her. And fortunately, her work really shines and people really love it in Florida. The brushed aluminum look is a really popular look, and it's almost timeless. And I give her a lot of credit for, constantly staying true to herself, but also evolving and growing as the kind of industry has changed, so has she.
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting, just kind of getting to know her. And I think, unless you want to add anything else, let's get to know her even better.
No, let's do it.
Awesome. And I know it's her husband, Jason, as well, is going to join. So, Jason is kind of the business side, and Sondra's the art side. So there's a lot of parallels between them and us. So they appear to be ready now. So let's bring them on. Awesome. Sondra, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I am good. I'm glad. I'm excited about this interview, and I'm excited about visiting your gallery soon, where it's warm.
Yes, we're excited to have you on. Where are you located right now?
We're in Nebraska, right in the middle of the country.
So
and it's actually a warm day today. It's 42 degrees. So.
Oh no! How brutally cold has it been the past few weeks?
Well, it's been really bizarre because we've been unseasonably warm. So last week we actually got up even almost to 60 degrees, which normally actually
30s is normal for us.
Yeah, we had a Facebook memory of Jason sitting in our hot tub with icicles hanging from his mustache from exactly a year ago, and it was sub-zero temperatures.
Yeah, it was negative 32 that morning that I sat in the hot tub and froze out.
I did not join him.
Yeah, 2 weeks later it was 72. It was a really
so we have bizarre weather in Nebraska. I mean, literally 150 degree temperature range.
So how do you end up getting into a hot tub when it's negative, 30 degrees? How do you?
Quickly.
Very
Okay.
quickly,
Very
yeah.
quickly. Well,
And the hot tub is about 2 feet from our house door.
yeah,
So
it's tucked up against our house right by the back door. So
Okay.
it's a quick jaunt.
How'd you end up in Nebraska? Are you originally from there?
yeah, born and raised.
Okay.
I left Omaha to go to school in Denver. I went to Colorado Art Institute, but then wound up back in Omaha. Just friends and family, great people here. But I don't know. I see somewhere in our near future moving somewhere warmer. But we come to Florida, that'll help.
That's right.
Just
Yeah.
got to get through the winter.
It's nice down here this time of year. Now today, I want to say it's about 75, blue skies, sunny. So it's back to
Bring it
where I
on.
want it to be. So
Yay.
did you go to school anticipating you wanted to become a metal artist? Was that the ultimate goal?
No, actually, I think that's probably one of the things that surprises people the most when I say that I have a degree in fashion design.
Oh wow.
Yeah, see, surprise.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got a degree in fashion design, but before that, like even before college, I was born out of the womb with crayons and and glitter, and I was always creating and drawing, and I really loved two-dimensional art growing up, doing paintings and drawings, everything.
Yeah.
But I loved to sew. For all different reasons, and anything creative I had my hands on. So I wound up getting a full ride scholarship for the fashion design program in Colorado Art Institute, and I thought, well, heck, I'm not going to turn that down. And
it's a great design school, so that's the kind of the secret of the sauce. There was, even though it was fashion design, it was design school. So it's just a matter of applying your design skills to a different medium. So
I mean, and there really isn't a metal sculpture degree. I mean, you can get a BFA and specialize, but I think for me, it just was kind of the perfect degree for what I wound up doing. I had no idea I was going to be a metal sculptor, but I was always playing with all things creative, essentially, and started out doing wedding gowns, and more formals and that kind of thing, and then got more into doing wedding coordinating, and then I wound up doing decor and floral arranging, and then I wound up getting into home interiors, and just really wanted to get back into doing more painting, drawing, art type things, and started signing up for art fairs and just making whatever I could with what I had, and just creatively building little pieces of furniture and painting them, and started playing with wire and soldering. And I really was intrigued by working with the metals, but could only go so far with soldering. And so I signed up for a welding class. I took my first welding class, I think it was in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I was in my early 20s, and I'm, stepping into this class that was pretty much farmers and mechanics. And they all kind of looked at me cross-eyed, like, what do you want to do? And I took consecutive welding classes for probably about 4 to 5 years.
So you went to university for, fashion, and then you became, wedding extraordinaire. Let me tackle everything for you wedding wise. At what point then you went to your soldering classes, welding classes? At what point did you ultimately decide that aluminum was going to be your main material and wall art was going to be kind of your passion, and that's where you wanted to bring your focus to that type of medium?
My original thing that I started in when I was doing the metal sculpture, when I started the classes, I didn't even realize there were multiple kinds of welding, different ways of welding, different machines. So I had no idea what I even wanted to learn. So I just started out with brazing and soldering, oxyacetylene welding, and that's the classic where you have the torch and the feed rod. And I started out in copper, doing everything in copper, and it's a very, very slow method of sculpting. And also with copper, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
But really fun. It was very malleable. And mostly I was focusing on garden art just because of my love of being in the outdoors in my garden. And so I was making copper fountains and things trellises and sculptures that go in the garden. And but quickly it just became very, very time consuming, and also just very not just time consuming, but costly. And so I just started experimenting with other kinds of welding. And as I learned the tools, I adapted my work, and went into MIG welding and started doing things in steel, and discovered what it looked like to start polishing up the steel. I didn't really want my work to oxidize, or also known as rust. But so I started brushing the steel and getting the shiny silver patterns, and just loved the modern look of it. And I love all things shiny. And so started doing mostly wall sculptures out of steel. They were very heavy. And it was also hard to polish up because there's kind of this coating on steel that you have to take off. And then, of course, it can still oxidize. So I was having to clear coat and do all of that. And then finally, I think my welding instructor at some point has said, have you thought about messing around with aluminum at all? And I was like, well, no. And of course, aluminum is another whole type of welding, which ideally TIG welding is how you want to weld aluminum. So I learned to TIG weld.
What is TIG welding?
TIG welding is a little bit different. It uses
gas and electric.
Yeah, it's a gas and electric, but it also has the difference between like MIG welding, which is your classic welder that you see like mechanics using, where you just, pull the gun and it's a wire fed welder, where TIG is like kind of a combination between the oxyacetylene, where you're using the filler rod. But with the TIG, you have to also adjust the amount of gas that comes out. So you either have a rheostat on your thumb or a rheostat on your foot, so you can have a foot pedal. And I was like, hey, this is just like using a sewing machine.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, my welding instructor was just like, oh my gosh, I've never seen somebody learn the coordination of that so fast. I was like, well, it's no different than when you're sewing. You're using your hands, you're using your feet. So plus I played the drum set when I was in high school.
You've done everything.
I wasn't any good, but I thought I was.
you got the coordination part of it. So
yeah. So we so that kind of, I think the way aluminum responds to the brushing patterns, which I'd say is one of the iconic looks to my work, is the intentionality of the way the pieces are polished. And the aluminum just responds to that beautifully. Plus, I liked the fact that it was more lightweight. So when I am working larger and doing larger piece sculptures to go on a wall, it's not going to tear the nail out of the wall or be a hazard. And I could physically lift my own pieces that way. And just to be able to work with it was a lot easier. Just love the results of how it looks. There were some challenges with aluminum versus steel. It's much harder to cut because it has a different melting point. And then it also is harder to weld. And so just with having to TIG weld it, and then I was looking, as my production started to increase and I started to hire people under me, it was like just to have the equipment and the space and to be able to do it out of my home still, I moved into non-welded techniques that actually, as the years have gone by, so much new products have come out on the line that I've, like in the last 2 years, I've started using some of the new types of adhesives that are out there. And some of my sculptures are completely glued together now. And if you had told me that 20 years ago, I would have been disgusted with that, because nothing was better than welding. Yeah. But, thanks to science, some of these adhesives are actually stronger than welding. And the reason I love it is I can get a really, really clean look. I don't really like the look of seeing the welds. And when you do weld something can warp, and it just, you have to grind it down. And so just to me, with the adhesives, I could get a completely clean look, and it's going to be just as durable and strong.
So is that what non-welded means? Is that just strictly using some sort of adhesive versus bending the metal to a certain shape or whatnot?
I have non-welded, meaning that I've come up with a series of, I do these tabs that kind of bend out and then make the pieces stand out from the wall. And if I have multi-layers, then I've gone to pop rivets. And
Okay.
that was something that I was like, somebody doesn't need to be trained to be a skilled welder to be able to do a pop rivet. So like a lot of the pieces are, the pop rivets are hidden. You can't see them. It's all a kind of a hidden system, but it just creates a very clean look, which I'm just kind of a snob about. My work is very clean and precise. And
and one thing too with that, with the adhesives we found, and I'll tell a little backstory on this. Sondra has some pieces out at a local development that she has a life-size moose. She has a 9-foot grizzly bear. Some things that she's made that are huge and have 0 welds on them, and they are
outdoor street stage sculptures.
Multi-100-pound pieces. And when we first got into that series, and this was in 2020, it would have been 2020. She had the idea for the piece she wanted, and it was a human figure, and she was building out the kind of dimensions and trying to figure out how we're going to put it together. And we started researching and found, Ty said, well, about like laminating together, like you laminate wood together, but do it with aluminum. And can it be done with an adhesive type thing? So we literally after a couple of days ended up at 3M, or calling 3M adhesives, and talked to one of the last science engineers that was still there, because this was COVID time. And this lady said, well, I'm like the only one here, and I'd love to help you out because my phone doesn't ring. So I said, okay, this is what we're trying to do, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, she was like, literally, this just was released from NASA. We've been using it to glue satellites and things with NASA for years, but it was just released to the common market, whatever. And she was like, okay, a tube about as big as your thumbs, $400, but you do not need much, and this is how you do it. And I was like, well, how does the price
of that has gone down too? It's still very pricey, and I don't need a whole lot of it, but it's not as expensive as paying somebody to weld.
But when we asked, sheer strength and all of these things, and she was like, well, it holds up a satellite that's blasted into space, so
you can handle your artwork.
She actually had said that it's stronger than a weld, which I didn't think was possible.
By specs, it's stronger than a weld. So it really opened up for Sondra a huge ability of like, how clean can we make this now, because we don't have to worry about hiding. And some of it too, we just had to talk to ourselves, okay, we're not like gluing things together. Like, this is a new technology that we're using. And now we've done a dozen different large scale sculptures with this laminated and,
out in Nebraska weather.
Like I said, Nebraska weather, we have ice issues of like moisture can get in between layers and then pop it with ice. And I check, like for the first couple of years, I was checking every warm up and cool down that we had. I'd go out and check the sculptures, and they don't budge. And we have a bunch in our backyard too, and we test them here just to see what they do, and they hold up beautifully. And they're beautiful.
So at what point did you know that your designs could become a career, and that your wall art was going to be from less of a hobby and more of a, I'm jumping in the deep end and going all in as a professional artist?
You went to art school, so we're used to eating rice and ramen. So you lower your expectations. A career really opens up at that point.
I think I've always wanted to be an artist. I've always wanted that to be my career. Of course, growing up, I was always told that you can't sustain that. You can't live off of that. It's the whole starving artist thing. And I was determined to make it a go. And we just kind of spread out a wide net and did several different things to help sustain us. Jason started out he was in electronics and did his electronic career. And so he helped kind of pretty much fund most of my ideas, my creative endeavors to begin with. But I started out just signing up for these art fairs. And then at that time I was collecting a snail mail list of people. And I would just send out postcards. I started doing shows out of my house, and then
and local art fairs
and the local art fairs, and then I was working out of my home and creating messes. And Jason would come home from work and I'd have stuff all over the house of whatever project I was working on making and whatever medium I was working in at the time. And I wound up deciding to open a gallery. So the two of us opened a gallery in 2001. Yeah, same time I started welding. We opened a gallery in 2001, and at the time it was just my work and a friend of mine's work, and the two of us had a studio space in the back of the gallery. And that was more really what we were after, was we were looking for studio space to get it out of my house. And at the time I didn't live in a house that accommodated any of that. So we wound up having the studio space in the back, and we had enough room that I was like, well, gosh, why don't we open a little gallery in the front? And we were just open, I think, like 2 days a week for a while. And then that started to build. And then we wound up being open round the clock, hiring people and doing shows. And
we went from, I think it was, I'm trying to remember the square footage of that place. I think it was like 800 square feet. The front was 800 and the back was 800. So the half and half gallery, half studio. Then we eventually had to moved the studio out because the gallery grew so much that we took all of the space. And then I moved the studio back home. And then we wound up building the house we're in now. And we actually built the house around my work habits.
Okay.
So, it's just really accommodates the way we work. But then
it's a while, because that's a very similar story to ours.
Yeah.
And it started with the gallery was about 600 square feet. My mom had a studio that was about 1,400 square feet. And then suddenly it became 1,400 for the gallery, 800 for the studio. The next thing you know, the whole thing was gallery. Her studio got kicked out. She had to move around, and now she's back in her garage working.
Yeah. So it's so funny.
Yeah, I completely understand what you went through and how you got there.
And it's actually very parallel to your dad too. With me, is I had my career for a while, and then it got to the point that Sondra's like, can you just leave your career and just work for us and just like help us grow this?
Yeah.
thing?
And what had happened was the gallery was growing, but then my metal sculpture business was growing, and I decided to do a wholesale market in 2008. Was that 2007 was the first wholesale market I did, and I that started to take off. And that was when I started hiring people to help me. And then I wound up having this whole like two full-time employees, sometimes 3 full-time employees coming into my home, helping me make sculptures. Some are in my garage, some are in my basement, some are eating lunch at my kitchen table. It's like, and then I have the gallery going on. And I'm like, can you please quit your job?
Well, in the gallery it was in an older location, our first location, and it was doing fine, but then we just it was right around, I don't remember the series, but like I hit the point, like I was so frustrated with my job, and finally Sondra's like, just quit, just leave.
He was so loyal.
Yeah, I was way too loyal. So so then I said, all right, it's 2012. I just, my job is this. And I then automated our systems and changed our inventory system and started an online store and just some of these little things. And next thing you know, we decided we're in the wrong location. Like, we don't have the foot traffic. Or like, if we're going to make this go, we need to be where people are. And so we went from a quaint little old town type area to
the high-end shopping
high fashion mall. Yeah, high fashion mall area. And our business went tenfold very quickly.
But I still have the gallery?
No, we actually decided to close the gallery in 2019. Little did we know there was a pandemic around the corner. And so in 2019, that was we closed January of 2019, and then we decided to do a pop-up in the winter season of 2019. Mm-hmm. And we had this fantastic holiday pop-up that we were open for 2 months. And then after that, COVID hit, and then we just decided we don't even need to do this holiday pop-up thing. Like, let's just focus on the garden party and focus on my work. And so that's just been a season since really 2019 that has been this kind of honing in on even my own work of what direction I want to take and what that's going to look like. And even to now, my work is starting to change again. I'm starting to not do the small things anymore. And the newest thing is I have decided I want to work solo now and just really focus on going into more small runs of things and one of a kinds, and then everything will be made 100% by me.
Nice.
So my employees, as of the end of the year, I have one left, and she, when I leave for Florida, it will be her last day. Which is a bittersweet. It's a very bittersweet.
We're kind of like, I wouldn't say pushing the babies out of the nest because the babies wanted to fly, type thing.
They're not our babies.
Baby birds. Sorry, wasn't baby. But how like we love the creative atmosphere that we have here, and it doesn't bump us at all that our employers come to us and say, like, I've been doing this type of art, and like I want to do an art fair, but like I need some time off to do it. Like, does that work? We're like, oh, absolutely. Like,
please take it.
Go.
Yeah, they both, the two main employees that have been working the most for me.
Years,
they're fantastic people. They feel like family. I love having them in our home, and I miss them. But I'm super excited for them. One of them, she's a glass artist, and she's been doing just this amazing, fantastic glass, which it's really cool because now I'm collaborating with her, and she is making pieces that I'm implementing into some of my sculptures. And then the other employee, he's been making some garden art pieces of his own, and he's now followed my shoe steps of doing wholesale. So he's now in the wholesale market, creating a line of garden art, he and his wife, and making it out of their home. And it's fun to be able to help foster that, and see their creativity flourish. So it's a bittersweet in that it was such a neat season to have people around and us all working as a team creatively, but it's also really cool to see them be able to go out on their own, and for me to be able to just collaborate with them now is super cool. Yeah.
So how have your roles changed since 2019 once you closed the gallery? Jason, you were focused mainly on the gallery, and Sondra was on the art. Now I'm guessing, see each other a lot more, or maybe on top of each other a lot more. So how have you divvied up the roles at your company?
One thing, let me point out, I'm sitting at my desk. There's Jason's desk. So we
work very close together.
Yes, we do.
Literally work very close together. Well, and that's part of, to answer the question in two ways, part of her design. She's a great designer. She doesn't need help, but sometimes you're so into a design that she can be like going between A and B and like all this, and she'll be like, all right, honey, show me this, and spin the computer to me, and I can just spin around. I was like, oh, definitely B.
Yeah, he's got a good eye.
I'm decent with design, but I am not a blank canvas person. You got to show me a start of something, and then I'll help you launch it. But the second answer to that question is I'm very much process and operation.
Yeah,
and that's where I thrived in our gallery.
Small business.
Yeah, small business. Like, give me a little bit of chaos, and I'll find a way to get it through and working. And that's where I love, we're both problem solvers to a fault, to where, we
make problems to solve.
We do. We absolutely do. So so running with her sculpture, like, I can help with a little engineering. I always say help because I never want to discount what Sondra does, because she's an incredible engineer as well as a sculptor and designer, where a lot of artists that like we had worked with show us an idea, and like in my mind I'm thinking, this is planet Earth with gravity, like how's that going to stand? Sondra, I never have to have that conversation with her. There's times that like she's working on a current project, and it's a figure standing, and she said, well, it needs to be anchored down and the customer's going to put it in. I'm like, okay, so that brings a different thing. Like, we know how to put our own stuff in and how we're going to anchor it down if we're going to pass this to a customer to do it. And just working that kind of structural engineer. But we also have family who's structural engineer, that if it's really crazy, we can pop it after them. But help in the process of
processes.
things. And
He does a lot with like the financials, the just kind of all the back end of everything.
Yeah.
The websites, the orders, the processing, inventory, all of that stuff he's really good at. And Jason grew up in small business. It's interesting. His grandparents were small business owners. They had a gift store, Hallmark store, and it was
collectibles.
And it was like a 3-story downtown small, like small department store, so to speak. I mean, it was also a Hallmark store, a bookstore. They had gifts and collectibles. But what's so funny is some of the things his grandparents' store carried, we actually wound up carrying at our gallery, some of those same artists. And then we also used a lot of their displays and some of the things from their old store in our gallery. So there was just a lot of history from the Gerber's family that was really cool. And then his parents are both, his dad's an entrepreneur, and he owned a sailboat shop, sold sailboats. And
mind you, in the middle of Nebraska, in the middle of the country, he sold sailboats countrywide. And that was one of my high school and college jobs, was picking up and delivering sailboats and rigging them and delivering to customers in Florida, in California, Texas, or Midwest.
But then
so you're from Nebraska as well.
I am.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys grow up knowing each other?
Sort of.
Okay, so this enters Jason's passions area. I'm going to say small business. He approached his dad when he was 14, and drew out on a napkin a business plan to open a skateboard shop. So at 14 years old, Jason's dad helped him start and open a skateboard shop.
He matched my $300, so we had $600 going forward. We rent a little corner space that was
a tiny little space.
Yeah, it was $200 a month, but my dad negotiated the first 3 months were free, and then it was $200 a month, and it was like 12 by 14.
Nice.
It was tiny, but it was 2 stories.
Yeah.
And it had this little balcony. But when you're selling skateboards, he hung 2 stories high of skateboards. And that kid, he sold so many. I mean,
I put myself through college.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did really well with that store. So, I mean, he's grown up in businesses and kind of he's always the one that taught me when I was back in the art fairs. He'd poke his finger in my back and he's like, don't just sit in a chair behind your booth like all the other artists. Get out in front and talk to the customer.
And smile.
There's a name for that. I always call them the vulture artists, because they're in the back, looking like a vulture, staring you down like, don't dare touch my art. And you're like, that. So I would always push her and her.
Make me stand out in front of our booth.
Yep. And welcome them and
smile and welcome in. And
give them something to hand. Give them your
make me wear a name tag.
Yeah. So just little things I learned from my dad about, approaching. But so with that skateboard shop, I was a skateboarder since I was 6 years old.
But where we met,
that's where I was going with it.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up with a sponsorship, and then ended up started touring around and doing demonstrations and contests and that for my sponsors. And I was in Omaha for a contest run, and it was in May. It was May 7th of 1989.
And I was the skate Betty up on the balcony.
Yeah. Wow. So she was the girls watching the guys in the glorious long hair.
It was the ponytail. I was 15. I had no standards.
Yeah. Ponytail and a skater.
Ponytail. Yep. He had to be a skater and have a ponytail. Yeah.
So I saw her and her friend up on the balcony and made a lame excuse to go talk to him between some of the heats, and then just
he chose the artsy fartsy girl.
I did.
That was what he called me.
Nice. Yeah, my very first job ever was working at a skate shop in St. Pete. So
really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, you guys will have to talk about that when we're out there.
Yeah, it was a blast. I was great at making the skateboards, cleaning the bearings, adjusting the trucks just right, getting the grip tape. But I was a terrible skateboarder. But I loved everything about it. I broke my arm twice skateboarding, but it was a blast.
As you can see, there's a pile of boards
we've got
here.
Skateboards
nice.
Like my riders. I did a tour for my 50th birthday, and this is one that I rode.
Oh, very cool.
And
nice.
We integrate passions in our lives. Yeah.
So our roles moving into this year are going to look different. And we've been that's kind of been our new thing, our focus of like, what is this going to look like? And Jason and I have always done well at doing projects together and creating together. But when it came to, there really was a division between the gallery and the sculpture company. And he would, take care of the back end of things, but he never had his hands on of actually making pieces with us. And so now moving into this season, I'm pulling him into that. I'm not sure how he feels about it. I think there's a little intrepidation on both ends for us, but I just know he's got the ability. We work well together. It's just kind of moving him into my space, which is
I maintain all the equipment that she works with anyway, from welders, compressors to the glass kiln and the water jet machines, all of that. I mean, I maintain them and know how to use them.
Yeah.
But I don't do anything with them because I just know how they work. It's up to you, and I'm support team at that.
So it'll be interesting to see how it shows in our work, and especially since I just feel like the time is more precious, and so to be able to spend more time creating new designs and experimenting, being able to prune out so many of these things in our life has allowed us to be able to be more intentional about focusing on new creative endeavors. And especially with my work, I've talked for years how I would love to implement wood into my work. I've got the metal and glass, but I would like dad joke. So I think that the wood would be really beautiful with the polished metal and the glass, and
absolutely
and it's also being able to cut the wood using some of the same technologies and be able to add that in to add some warmth.
So being kind of progressing more towards large wall sculptures, wall decor, how have you seen that your designs have changed as the fashionable trends for what people want in their homes have changed? And living in Nebraska, the decor is different than for Florida or New York, and you seem to sell your work across the country. So how do you design with the mass appeal in mind?
I don't.
Yeah.
That's the key. Mm-hmm. I've kind of always had this philosophy of just going with my own creative endeavors and whatever inspires me, and to not really take the cues from home decor. I mean, I have a degree in design, and I did home decor for a while. I did home interiors, but to just have it be more where it has a classic look. And do my pieces fit into every kind of decor? Not really. It does have a look. But I think just staying true to who I am and really kind of what dictates it is the things that inspire me, which I've mentioned my garden. But I'm also have a love for mid-century design, mid-century modern design. I got to throw that in there. So, I love the polished chrome and the wood and the bright color usage back then. And so we use that a lot in our home decor. And I just think it's a classic look, but you will see that kind of influence also in my work. But hence another reason why I want to bring more woods into it. My work sells really well in your space. I think your clientele loves the look of my work. I think it's really a good fit for, maybe I just need to live in Florida. But so I think there is definitely a look to it, but it does seem to span the country that people want it. And I think
I would say Ohio Northeast is very strong for Sondra. And East Coast, it seems to be the look of that. But we've had over the years multiple California galleries that order and then never reorder. And they want to show and then they don't.
It seems to not sell as well on the West Coast.
Yeah, and we've visited a bunch of them anywhere from San Francisco to San Diego, and they some get excited and they think it's great, and then it just doesn't move for them. It's just it's a style wise, and that's what I love.
It's just coastal because I'm still like I've got New Mexico, Colorado, like all kind of still Western states. Not I'm selling in those areas. It just seems to be
coastal.
Coastal. California.
That's where, it's a great question, because we had that conversation of like, what can we do to try to get into galleries or these types of things. And then Sondra's like, I don't do it that way. This is how I sculpt. And then we realize it's just a matter of,
I'm either a fit or I'm not.
and it's listening like to the Shapiro's to say, oh my gosh, that one piece didn't even sit for more than 10 minutes on the floor before somebody grabbed it. Like you have more of that. That's really great. And that lets us know.
And I will take my cues from my customers. Mm-hmm. Like if there's people that are fans of my work, like I'll listen to that and I'll take that into consideration when I am designing. And sometimes I do kind of pay attention to some color ways. And every time I do that and I try to kind of I'm going to try a sculpture with some of the more current colorways, it just doesn't fly. It doesn't fly. So I just kind of stick with
like rose gold and taupe right now.
Yeah, and I actually have a couple pieces that I've tried the more.
And apparently, plum is the next color of the.
And I have a piece with some plum glass on it. I'm actually bringing to you, so maybe somebody will love that because it will match their decor.
So I guess I'll end on this. You're coming down to the gallery February 22nd, I believe.
Yep.
What can we expect, and what should our customers expect to see, or what are you bringing? Anything you want to tease or get people excited about?
I do have some of the collaborative pieces that I mentioned in this interview that I did with Jennifer. So it'll have the glass that she makes with my sculptures, and those are done with that new technique that I talked about, laminating the pieces together. So I'm bringing a collection of those that are really beautiful. And I've got some larger scale wall pieces that I'm bringing, and I'm bringing quite a bit. I'm excited about the things and Jason's bringing his skateboard. He'll be going to skate parks.
I'm bringing two.
Maybe not to the
me and a friend, yeah.
You might be back on that board.
Yeah, I'll have to try it. I'll bundle up and gear up and bring everything.
Put on a helmet.
Is there anything else that you want to share or tell us, or anything else? We've covered a lot.
We did cover a lot. Is there anything that you're interested in knowing?
We do Zooms 2 to 4 times a week, sharing about our lives anyway. So
very cool.
We're keeping it really short for you, actually.
Well, thank you. No, I think it was really done. You guys did great. I think we gave a good overview, and for anyone who has any questions, I encourage them to come and meet you guys in person on February 22nd. You guys will be at the gallery and see the new work and check out the laminated aluminum and all the new pieces. So I really am excited to see the new pieces and also reconnect with you guys. So I appreciate your time.
We're excited to see the Shapiro's. We love your family.
And I know you're bringing the sailboat down, so I hope you have fun.
Yeah, we're super excited to get that boat on the water.
That's when it becomes a business expense that I could bring a boatload of art.
We literally are bringing a boatload of art.
It's a 26-foot by 8-foot wide container at that point, and
filled with artwork. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Well, awesome, guys. Thank you again for joining us. I found it very interesting that she went to school for fashion and ended up becoming, wedding gown designer, wedding planner, floral arranger, and then from there she was able to progress into wall art, and then her love for gardening. And it's interesting how the path she took to becoming a quote unquote professional artist was, it's very similar to a lot of our other artists who have they started in one avenue and went to a different direction, and then fell in love with a certain aspect, and then took their skills from one area to the next, and figured out over time who they truly were as artists. And with Sondra's case, going from welding copper and steel to aluminum to focusing on the gallery to the wall art, she's done it all, and she's kind of honed in on exactly who she is.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm sorry that I missed it. We recorded this interview right around Valentine's Day, and unfortunately we got really busy at the gallery, so I had to sit this one out, but I think you did a great job.
Well, thank you. Well, the nice thing is Sondra's going to be in the gallery on Saturday. So the interview that I got, I was able to ask all my questions. So now you can get any questions you may have answered on Saturday. And for those that are listening, definitely come by the gallery on Saturday. When is she going to be there? Do you know?
She is going to be there. Was it the 22nd?
Yes.
Yes. So February 22nd, she's going to be at the gallery between 1 and 4. This is one of the artist meet and greet trunk shows that we had talked about previously. So she is bringing down a bunch of her work.
A boatload.
A boatload.
Literally.
Yeah. 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 Jason works on boats for like a hobby. So they're bringing it down and they're loading up their boat with tons of work, and we're going to have a big wall dedicated to just her stuff. So come on by this coming Saturday between 1 and 4 so you can meet Sondra and Jason. And if you have any questions you want to ask them, that would be a great time. Or if there's any, special items that you're dreaming up that you want to talk to her about, maybe she can do some sort of custom piece for you. But that would be a great time to come down and meet her and learn a little bit more about her and her studio.
Absolutely. And thank you again to Jason and Sondra. I know Jason's bringing a skateboard down as well, so he's excited to skate around town and sail and get out of the frigid winters of Nebraska. So I don't blame him. Being as we have 2.5 days of winter up in Baltimore is more than enough, so I get why people want to come down.
Yes.
Looking forward, what's going on? Anything exciting events wise coming up?
I don't have my calendar in front of me right now, but I know our next podcast we're going to actually record up here while we're here in Baltimore to give everyone a little bit more of a behind the scenes look of what a trade show looks like. Maybe we can grab some of our artists from the floor and kind of talk to them. So I think next week's episode is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it'll when we talk about buying shows, I think people picture one thing, and in reality, I think you're going to realize it's so much more. It's so much work going into the show to plan out ordering for 10 months from now, figuring out budgets and styles and trends, and hoping that what we order in February for December is still appropriate for December in December. So it's a lot of spreadsheets and a lot of time goes into planning for these events. So I hope you guys will listen to the episode next week. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. So make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast on whatever service you're listening to, whether it's Apple or YouTube or Spotify or Facebook or Instagram. Heart, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend. Shapiro's Gallery.com, Shapiro's Gallery on social media. And then the podcast itself, Shapiro's Rooted in American Craft. Make sure you tell all your friends. Anything you want to talk about?
No, I think I'm good.
Cool. I hope you guys enjoyed the interview with Jason and Sondra. I hope you guys will come by the gallery on Saturday. We can't wait to see everybody, and definitely check out all the unique wall pieces she's bringing down. But until next week, I am Matt, along with my sister, Alena. This has been Shapiro's Rooted in American Craft. You guys have a great one. We'll try not to freeze up here.